gentlemen. Without further ado, sometimes we have to take off the gloves, put up your dukes. You want to funk around with me? It's time for the good news, the bad news, and the other shit.
So
yeah, you like that?
Without further to do.
Ado. You know, not further badu. It's like ado. Sade.
Right.
Helen Fola Sade Adu.
Oh, look at you.
Right, that's her name, right?
Showing out.
Y'all didn't know that's Sade's name?
I did.
Helen Fola Sade Adu.
I remember it now that you mention it, but if you would have asked me first, I would say no.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't remember.
Well,
I'm
take
impressed.
a look at this. Because the story today, you guys, that Angelina Jolie has revealed that she's already had a double mastectomy. Now, we're going to talk a little bit, tell you about, take a look at this wonderfully stunningly beautiful woman here, because when you talk about mastectomy, there's a lot of symbolism in it, because it's breasts, removal of breasts or breast tissue, an issue that's really dear to the hearts of many women in terms of their own self-image, also in terms of the way they perceive value to men, right or wrong.
Right
or wrong. We're not going to deal with that. We're just going to talk about, but still, this is a big deal. Let me set it up for you. Why this is happening? Because of a lot of the new abilities people are able to do with cancer screening using the genetics, the Human Genome Project that maps to human. Even though your corporations are out there trying to patent your genes, so that's some of the evil being done right now. But anyway, because of some of this, there are genes where they could test you. And Angelina Jolie, whose mother died of cancer, has a gene that said she had an 87% risk of breast cancer and a 50% risk of ovarian cancer.
Right.
Removing her breasts dropped her risk to less than 5%.
I thought it was to 8, but okay. No.
Well, you know, remember those are studies, so roughly, because you know one thing about those things, they're never concrete anyway. So roughly in that zone, and they're always a plus or minus. Okay. All those things are given with, you know, the values 10 plus or minus 3.
Okay.
And what they're saying is there's a 99% chance that it's within that range.
Okay. That's
what that means. When they give you the plus or minus, it's to say that that'll include that there's a 99% chance that it's going to fall within that range. So this is a pretty good degree of accuracy, but that's as accurate as they can make it. You see what I'm saying? So now, and she's not the first who's done this, and at first, and the fact that she actually came out and talked about it, because as it affects her career, people's perceptions of her sexuality, you know,
it's kind of ridiculous.
What do you guys think about this? I mean, as a woman yourself, I mean, even for men, you know, it's funny how men relate to these topics, because they really relate to it as their woman's body in a sense of ownership, or sometimes a misplaced kind of a thing. You know, some men are more traumatized by the loss of the breast than the woman.
I could see it. Yeah,
and again, maybe for the wrong reasons, whatever. But my question is, so what do you guys think about this? Devote's sitting there horrified.
No, I mean, I just...
Baby, it's okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't think... I know we're attached to the breast, but you have to do what you feel like you need to do for your health. And
what would you do if you told this information that you had this gene, and that, you know, you have an 80... Now, they give you a time that within your lifespan, I'm sure when they say an 87% chance, they'll give you like a range of years. Like, you have an 80...
This is what I heard, that when you have that double mastectomy, that the cancer, of course, can't come back in your breast tissue, but it'll come back somewhere else in your body.
Well, it depends. Remember now, the different genes are saying different things. The genes it's not quite that specific. Remember, this specific gene tells you that you have a high chance of breast cancer or ovarian cancers. So often when you have a gene, you're still at high risk for other cancers.
Okay.
So you can't remove that. You know, in other words, it's the test is a test that gives you information. And what happens is people want the information to be exact and specific, and that's the problem. They can only be so exact and so specific.
Okay, well,
that's why it's hard to make decisions.
Given that, given that, I don't think I would have a problem with having my breasts removed, especially because you could have, have them have
placed.
Yes.
That's
now,
have money you'll never even know.
Well, that's what I was thinking about.
Better and more improved.
Yeah. You know what? Because here's what makes it so interesting. Because I really took some time and I started thinking about this. You know, when we lose something that we need to function, like a leg, an arm, that really impacts us.
Yes.
Some things you lose, but they don't impact. Right. Imagine if you lost your external ears. You had an accident and something shaved off your ear.
But you could still hear.
You would still hear perfectly.
Okay.
You would still hear perfectly fine because all of the inner workings are inside.
Right.
But you would have this disfigured ear. Now, so think about it. If you had a cancer, I would certainly rather get it of something that I can remove that wouldn't remove function.
Right. Like,
you know, if it could be of my little finger,
right.
Okay, and I go like, I'm gonna still be able to do everything.
And if you've already had babies and done all your breastfeeding,
well, I'm just saying, at least it's not going to be, you know, somehow, you know, there's different ways to look at this because it has to do with how we value body parts. See, remember? That's what I was thinking. If you lose a leg, you are severely impacted,
right,
in terms of how you get around, how you do things. If you lose an arm, you're severely impacted, okay? Now we get to things of beauty. If you lose all your toes, your function is almost still perfect. They could do some stuff with the running because you tend to use it when you push off. But say you had frost injury or something in the cold. So in some ways, it's interesting when you look at losing something that is cosmetic versus functional. And also how we are impacted by those things. Like imagine you got a disease and all your hair fell out. To some people that's overwhelming, and to other people they are just, you know, we know the people who would say, I'm just bald and loving it.
Ooh, that feels overwhelming.
Big earrings going.
Feels overwhelming.
But you know what I'm saying? So in some ways, I think for me, I'm just saying, I applaud her dealing it with in a medical way. I applaud her in making what I think to be a wise decision, especially losing something that is cosmetic. And then I thought to myself, if it was my woman, I wouldn't love you one bit less for that. For not one bit less at all for that.
We applaud you, Mario.
But you know, but again, it's so scary. You know, I can imagine the people who have that. I have a friend who I'm going to therapy with right now.
Going through that.
Who's going through these kinds of things, and just the idea that you have to consider your mortality on a regular basis.
Right.
Every day.
But you know,
that
there's
you're
also a
considering your
blessing
death.
in that too. You know, having to consider your mortality is that you get to plan, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity. You get to plan and know when the end's coming and make peace with yourself and the people around you. I mean, that can be a comfort too.
It can
opposed to, you know, being in a terrible car accident, poof, you're laughing one moment and the other. You're
well, you know, I guess they each have their benefits, huh?
Well, I guess so.
I mean, because one thing, you know, when you go through a long illness with someone you love,
that's hard.
That is one of the hardest ones.
That's hard. Sometimes it's better just
that is one of the hardest ones.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though you get it depends on the quality of the life that you get to share with them.
That's very, very, very true.
All right. So everybody go take a look at this, and then again, more gene testing is coming. You know, more testing. This is how this is what we got to make this stuff more available to people. Also, it's just like prostate screening. The fact that you can be tested for a prostate antigen, that's way beyond the ability to feel. See, by the time you feel a cancer or see a cancer, see, you want to catch it at the microscopic level.
Right.
You know, they're measuring things today that equivalent of measuring a teaspoon of something in that pool.
Wow.
That's the degree of sensitivity. Okay, so once again, all right. All right, so we applaud you, Angelina.
Yeah, did we do that? Can I applaud her again?
Yes, you can.
So that was the good news.
Well, you know what? I just went out of order, but you know I couldn't ignore that because when I awoke, that was what was on
there
on the TV, and it was an amazing story. I said, "Oops, I got to look at this."
Yeah,
it's an amazing story.
Good story.
Okay, other two stories quickly that I want to go in there, and there may be some further video. As it turns out, historians are finding the references in communications between Jimi Hendrix and Miles Davis. People didn't know they actually had plans for a group.
Oh, wow.
To come together and do a recording. What's interesting is, guess who they were looking at as being the bass player?
Who?
Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow.
Isn't it interesting?
Awesome.
It's an interesting group of people who were talking about being involved because the idea was to spread a different thing together and to do a different thing. And it just never came off because of Jimi Hendrix's, death that came up so suddenly.
Well, let me say this. No one has done it since.
Wasn't that something?
No.
No one has done that. Well, you know what? You would need those individuals to do that.
Well, so it's one of those things like in our dreams, right?
Right.
One of the things I wanted to show you, but we'll have some videos on in the future because I couldn't find any that weren't copyright protected and all that. But this new issue of wearable robots, okay? One of the wonderful ideas that people developed about helping folks who had problems with their limbs, either through paralysis or amputation or whatever, was someone got the idea of designing support on the outside, what they would call an exoskeleton, which is what your insects have, like your roaches, your bugs. They have a skeleton that's on the outside. They have a hard external surface, right. That's called an exoskeleton. Okay, now the idea is people learned, and they got a bunch of stuff for the military because the military has also been working with this. Right, the military's been working on an exoskeleton that you put on like pants.
Right.
And not so much for the paralyzed people. It allows the average soldier to walk like 40 miles, 50 miles.
So now they
without tiring, because it does have to work.
The bionic man or something?
Well, right, that's what here's a picture of one that's coming that people are working on. Now people are starting to walk. This man here is paralyzed, and now is able to walk with the benefits of an external exoskeleton. And look how wearable they are.
Right.
See,
awesome.
with the new materials, you guys, they're wearable, and you strap them onto the external. And imagine they're going to make that for the arms too, and hands. So you start learning how to control these things, and they're external and cheaper than trying to do any kind of a surgery or anything to strengthen. You can imagine the difference in cost in this.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. You know what's I need to submit my designs. We have some funky leg warmers on them, and some fringes on the arms. Yeah.
That's that is.
That's a little weird.
And that's like Velcro. They can Velcro it on. You know what I mean? So they can change their outfit every day.
That is not a joke. I guarantee you. Maybe
somebody's going to do that.
Somebody will do what you're talking about and make it more natural for them.
Even when I was coming up, there was a regular reoccurring part of the penthouse letter section.
Penthouse
letter section were men who liked women who were amputees, and how they would dress up the stump, put little stockings on it, and I'm serious. And I remember, and I would go like, "Wow, that's a little weird." But they would dress up the stump and put little stockings and garters.
For that too. Somebody was selling them outfits for that.
Well, the point is, we're getting used to people. Like, remember in Star Wars when Luke lost his hand? It wasn't even a big deal, right? They just put on the robot hand, and he said, "Okay, I got a new robot hand." One day, these kinds of things will not bother us, right? Like, we won't evaluate your beauty based on your robot leg.
Right.
It won't mean that to us.
It'll be based on our heart.
We won't even mind that you have a robot arm. It'll be okay. Hey, look at my arm. Hey, can you shoot with it? What can you do with it?
I got the new version.
Yeah. So, and that's again a wonderful day. And that's why I wanted to leave you guys with that.
Then the downside is if they turn it into Blade Runner, then you're expendable.
And also the other downside is they're gonna tell you, but you don't qualify. Exactly. You don't have the coverage.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, but
sorry, you don't get the hand. You get to have a foot attached to your shoulder.
That's a different story.
But here's the joke. So here you are in war. You get your legs blown off. You're traumatized. They give you some robot legs and send you back out there and say, now you can run faster. I mean,
That's right. Get your ass back to work. That's right. Good news, bad news, another shit. The good news, we can replace your leg. Bad news, you're already late for work. And you're going to be docked. and your insurance premium has just gone up.
Cancel.